Begin recording and we can get this show on the road. Is the recording set?
Yes, it is recording.
All right. So good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for taking some time out to come out this evening to hear about Consent Decree Package 5, Component 3, better known in real term words as Columbia Woods Toney Drive Upsizing Sewer Project. Next slide, please. Let me give a little brief introduction. Again, I want to thank you everybody for taking time out their busy day to come, and I want to recognize Commissioners Nicole Messiah, District Commission District 3, and Commissioner Ladina Bolton, Commissioner Super District 7. There's another public meeting being held tonight, so commissioners nor their assistants will be in attendance tonight, but we do want to recognize the commissioners whose district this project is in. Next slide, please. Our meeting agenda tonight follows as you see on your screen. We have a team of DWM, and I reiterate, we have a team of DWM professionals that will bring you this presentation tonight. Myself, Kerry Williams, I am Deputy Director, followed by Ms. Leah Johnson, Cassandra Marshall, Kian, Ari, Cassandra, and Elisa Penny. We do have some more team members that are consultants and contractors, but they're not on this meeting. Next slide, please. So right now we're going to just do a brief overview of DWM Watershed and what we do on a daily basis. Next slide, please. At DWM, we are responsible for bringing potable drinking water to your house. That is one of our biggest priorities. We serve over the 700,000 residents of DeKalb County, and we have the Scott County water treatment plants where we treat raw drinking water and send clean drinking water to your house. We also have 2 wastewater treatment facilities, both located in South DeKalb, where wastewater is treated and returned to the South River, almost to drinking water standards. And to serve you, we also maintain the system, which consists of roughly 5,000 miles of pipe, several pump stations, and a lot of other things that you can't see, but we do on a daily basis. I will go ahead. Let's go ahead and proceed to the next slide, please. Here we have a schematic of the sewer system itself. As you can see, it's a gravity-fed system. You have a lateral that connects your house to the sewer system. This is one of the places where we can get what we call I&I, infiltration and inflow, rainwater getting into the system, taking up capacity in the system. That is one of the issues that will be addressed by this project, putting in new pipe to get out the inflow and infiltration that's taking up capacity in the system. We are actually right now, we're looking to be more proactive than reactive to avoid sewer spills that we've experienced in the past. And this is one of the first steps in addressing that, and also in compliance with the consent decree, which we are under right now. Next slide, please. So the DeKalb County Engineering Management, Construction Management team will lead this effort. The project has been designed, and we are moving from the design phase now into the full-blown construction phase. Next slide, please. To implement the construction of this, we have not only the DWM professionals that we have in-house, we also are assisted by professional consulting engineering firms and contractors, such as AECOM, Jacobs, Black & Veatch, Gresham Smith, CERM, Kimmy Construction. You've heard a lot from me now, and so now it's time to really get into the project about the assessment of it, and the problems that we found, how we assessed it, and the problems that we found, and what's going to be addressed with this. To do that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Aaliyah Johnson, who is the engineering manager for ECMS, and she will give you assessment and problem. So, Miss Leah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carrie, and good evening, everybody. And my name is Leah Johnson. I'm an engineering manager for engineering, construction, and management services. So my team is leading the design aspect of the consent decree project, including this project in Columbia Woods or Toney Drive. And today I'm going to talk about the assessment and the problem and explain to you all a little bit about why do we need to do this project. Next slide, please. So why do we need to do the assessment? So typically before we identify what needs to be done, we need to know what the problem is for this specific area. So I'm going to walk you through a certain method that we use to identify an issues in this area. So there's a different way, there's a more complex or more simple way of doing this. So basically the first one that I'm going to discuss in brief is the smoke testing. We did the smoke testing where we put smoke inside the sewer main, and then this is to help to identify the private connection or any defect in the sewer lateral. So with this area, we have identified about 230 potential private lateral or clean out defects when we did smoke testing. And then the next one that I'm going to discuss is to identify if there is any issue internal inside the pipe. So what we did, what we call the closed circuit CCTV, we call CCTV. So we put a camera inside the pipe just to see what defect from within inside the pipe. So we did almost a little bit over 7,000 linear feet of the CCTV inspection, and we have identified that the pipe has several cracks or fractures and holes within the pipe, and that need to be rehabbed, and some of them probably need to be replaced, and also increasing the size for the future capacity. And some of the low-hanging fruits, such as the visual inspection, the structural conditions, such as the lateral clean-out cap that we need to be replaced, or manhole lid, vented manhole lid that we need to be repaired to prevent the flow to come inside our system. And so other methods such as acoustic testing to see blockage in the line, or the hydraulic modeling just to understand if the pipe that we have in the system have enough capacity, or do we need to increase the size to handle the future development. Next slide, please. And after the assessment, so we have identified the problem in this area. So based on the record of the sanitary sewer spill, or what we call SSOs here, there is a history of the repeated SSO of 43 events since back in 2017 in this area. And the most recent one that happened was just happened last month, February 13. And the spill occurred since last year. So because of that, when there's a sewer spill, we do need to address that. Since we are under the consent decree, like Carrie mentioned earlier, that we do need to fix the issues by a certain deadline. And also in this area, the first one on the first box, priority fix list, PFL, this is what need to be completed. And this is what is required by the EPD to complete. So there is specific address at Trasher Circle that was on the list by the EPD to be completed by a certain deadline. And also within this area, the edge infrastructure. As you may know that the sewer system is old, so most of these are more than 70 years old. It is outside our mind, so a lot of time we can't clear the issues just because of the edges of the infrastructure. Next is the lack of capacity. I did mention earlier that we typically try to understand if the pipe in the system is it enough to handle the future development in the next 50 years or so. So we need to look into the future so we don't have to come back and increase the size again. So this area do need to increase the size of the system. And lastly is operational efficiencies. So basically this just to see if the pipe that was in the system right now, some of them may have some structural issues, some may have some O&M, operational and maintenance issues, and some might not be installed correctly, like the reverse slope. So all that needs to be corrected to prevent any future problems. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cassandra Marshall to discuss about the solutions.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Good evening. My name is Cassandra Marshall. I am the Assistant Director at Watershed Management over the Capital Improvement Program. I have over 20 years of experience in construction and project management. I'm also a licensed water professional, certified project manager, and certified construction manager. So to this point of the presentation, you've heard about the problems. I will now speak about the solution. Next slide. So you may ask yourself, what do CIP stand for? Well, CIP, or Capital Improvement Project, is a project that helps maintain or improve the asset. It can either be new construction, an expansion, renovation, or replacement of an existing infrastructure. In 2025, the Board of Commissioners approved a new CIP program for $4.2 billion for projects to be completed from 2025 to 2035. On behalf of DWM, we would like to thank the commissioners for approving this major capital plan. The consent decree, Columbia Woods Toney Drive Upsizing Project, is a $3.9 million project that is included within that plan. My team, the CIP team, is responsible for getting the work done. My team includes 4 DWM construction managers and 12 licensed inspectors. Also, along with in-house staff, we are supported by multiple consulting firms who help assist with construction management and inspection services. Later in the presentation, you also hear from the DWM Construction Project Manager, Mr. R.M. Kennedy. He is a licensed utility manager with over 40 years of experience. He is also a former Navy Seabee. With that experience, he has a strong background in performing work under the ocean and helping with disaster recovery projects. So what we want you to know, well, while the construction is occurring, there are going to be inconveniences. However, we're here to help. We want to reduce or eliminate emergency repairs. We want to stop the spills, and we want to protect the environment. These improvements should last a minimum of 70 plus years. Next slide. You will now hear from Keon Banyasad about the project scope.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kian Maniasad. I'm one of the senior engineers with CMS. I'm also the technical project manager for this project. Next slide, please. As Ms. Johnson indicated earlier, since January 2016, we have done the preliminary work for this project. We have done the survey work, we have assessed the existing systems, we have done closed circuit TV, footage of the existing system, we have done a smoke testing, and we have completed field survey for this project. We also have completed the design, acquired all the permits, including land disturbance permit, a stream buffer variance permits, worked with Army Corps of Engineers, and also with GDOT. Today, we are having our community engagement meeting, and the project is scheduled to be completed by June 2026. We are just getting ready to start construction. We already have started clearing the field and getting the area prepared for the construction. Next slide, please. This project includes upsizing approximately 458 linear feet of pipe with a 20-inch ductile iron pipe, 2,614 linear feet of pipe with 18-inch ductile iron pipe, and 19 linear feet of pipe with 8-inch ductile iron pipe, for a total of 3,091 linear foot of pipe that would be upsized. As part of this project, we are also rehabbing about 18 manholes or replacing them. Most of the installation will be performed by conventional open cut excavation or pipe bursting methods. During the construction, we maintain our sewer services by bypassing the area under construction from an upstream manhole where the construction is taking place to a downstream manhole from where the construction takes place using bypass pumping. Next slide, please. At this point, I ask Mr. Ari Kennedy, the construction project manager for this project, walk you through the construction phase of the project. Thank you.
Ari?
Mr. Kennedy?
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. As Ms. Marshall alluded to earlier, I'm a licensed utility manager in the state of Georgia, but I want to stress 2 points before I get into what my team and I do, which is the fun part. And that is we take seriously our 750,000 plus or minus ratepayers. And I also want to stress that in this project, there's going to be inconveniences. There's going to be noise. Sometimes, depending on schedule, as is dictated by the schedule, we're going to be working Saturdays. But we're going to work together in partnership with the community and the contractor to bring this job home. As the others have said, you've heard the reasons, you've heard the engineering part. My team get to have the fun part. We're boots on the ground. And we're responsible for the day-to-day operations of the actual installation of the pipe and the overseeing of the contractor, which to include but not limited is the clearing within the easement, ensuring that erosion and sediment controls are in place, that the pipe is also installed in accordance with the contract documents, the county specs, and documentations. My team and I will also be enforcing the safety habits and the safety rules as they're applicable. Also, I stress that should any of the ratepayers have any issues, that you reach out to us first, the ones out there on the boots, and I assure you that we'll resolve the issue. The methods Keon alluded to briefly. The two methods are open cut, which you see to the left, is basically we're tearing up the real estate, trench box in place, putting the pipe in. The mostly trenchless method is to the right, where we pipe burst and it's less intrusive and we don't have to tear up as much real estate where feasible. Next slide. The survey and staking has already been underway, as Mr. Keon stated. We want to have mobilization and actually start in this site April 1st. Start putting in access road, clearing trees, putting in roads, all within the limitations of the easement, April 14th. May, we want to start actual pipe installation with the contractor. That's actually when we want to start. January 25th, January 2025, hopefully will be completed, and February 2026, final restoration and paving. Right now, the end game date is June 2026, but hopefully with my team and the contractor and the weather, we can bring this project in even earlier than that date. Next slide. As you see, this is a typical construction site, and this is roughly 3,000 linear feet, no small undertaking. As you see to the left, that's the actual construction entrance put in with your silk fence and stuff in place. To the right, we're going to restore it back in kind and or if not better. Next slide. I will turn this over back to Ms. Cassandra Marshall. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. I will now address the community concerns and what you should expect. Next slide. So, well, like Ari said earlier, there are going to be inconveniences. However, the short-term interruptions provide long-term results. Once we replace the pipe in the area, as previously stated, these improvements should last a minimum of 70+ years. What you're going to see, though, is a lot of construction, a lot of traffic, foot traffic, and vehicles. There are going to be construction workers, surveyors, county employees throughout your community. What also come with this is the parking for the crews. They will be parked alongside the streets in your neighborhood and sometimes along the work zone. There will be material and equipment deliveries by means of large tractor trailers. However, the crews and the flaggers will guide these large vehicles in and out of the communities. Also, as an FYI, all of the county contractors and county employees will have an identification badge issued by the county. So you would know who are working for the county on behalf of DWM. There's going to be noise. The equipment is going to have backup alarms. The alarm has to be loud enough for the people in the work zone to hear. This is a safety mechanism. Bypass pumps will generate noise also. This photo is an actual setup of bypass pumps around a sewer manhole. The good news is for this project, the pipe installation will start downstream, and as we're installing the new pipe, we will slowly take out the bypass pumping once we get the new system in place and start putting the sewage back on the new line. There's going to be dirt on the street. However, as an erosion control measure, the contractor will first install construction entrance and exit prior to starting any activities. This will reduce mud on the street, but not fully eliminate the issue. If mud or silt is tracked on the road, then the contractor is responsible for sweeping and cleaning those streets daily. Our typical work hours per our contract is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., sometime weekend and holidays. However, in high impact residential areas, we will only work from 8 to 5 with the equipment. And lastly, there will be clear delineation of the work zone. This is usually just shown by installing the black silt fence along the temporary or permanent easement and along the ingress and egress areas. Next slide. So another community awareness will be the use of project sign. The sign at the bottom left of the screen is an example of a sign where we require contractors to install prior to starting work in the area. These signs are to be placed in the view of the line of traffic and on every street impacted at a minimum of 72 hours prior to starting construction. On the bottom right-hand side is an example of a generic county contractor sign to be placed on unmarked company vehicles. Other vehicles will have their company logos. All cars on the county project must be marked and identifiable as a security measure. Next slide. So this slide shows resident impacts and location of where the contractor will utilize as ingress and egress to the project site. The first location will be coming down 3087 Thrasher Circle. And then off of Glendale Drive, they would come down 3133 or either down 2422 Glendale for access. Next slide. This is just a continuation to show the access to the project. The county does have a drainage easement at 3166 Columbia Wood Drive. They will use that as an access point. And lastly, off of Toney Drive between 3230 and 3220 Toney. Those will be access points also. Next slide. Next, you will hear from Public Relations Manager, Ms. Alicia Penny, about public communications update.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall, and good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Penny, and I'm the Public Relations Manager for the Department of Watershed Management. I've been with the department for over 20 years, providing communications and outreach for the department. And tonight, I will be sharing with you the ways in which we will communicate throughout the project so that you are informed about exactly what's going on as the project goes along. Next slide, please. Ahead of tonight's meeting, you should have received a notification letter similar to the one shown here to the far left, letting you know about the project, the duration of the project, and about the meeting tonight. Going forward, 48 to 72 hours ahead of any substantial work that's happening on the project, you will either receive a letter such as this one or a door hanger like the one that's listed here with our logos on it, telling you exactly what's going on and what to expect, and also giving you contact information in case you have any questions. And finally, you will be receiving email updates about this project. And so I do want to stop right here and say, if you can please provide us with your email addresses that we will be using to communicate throughout the project. We will send project updates to the email address you provide. And if you can place those in the chat, we can pick up those email addresses and use those for future communication. Next slide, please. Ways that we will communicate with you. We will use the project hotline, which I will share that number. That number was listed on the notification letter that you received, but that's a hotline where you can leave a message and the call will be returned within 24 to 48 hours with whatever question that you have. We also have a dedicated web page on our website for this project that's listed under capital improvement projects. And there you will find maps for the project, as well as there will be a recording of tonight's presentation that will be, and a copy of the presentation will be uploaded to that page. It's a dedicated page. We will also use social media. We will use Facebook and use X, which is Twitter, to communicate with you, and also through Nextdoor. We will use news releases. That's a way, if we have something major that is going on, we will use a news release to let you as well as the entire public know what is going on with the project. In addition to that, as Ms. Marshall mentioned, we have project signs that will be installed throughout the neighborhoods, letting you know that construction is in progress. And we also will have contractors on site to answer questions that you may have about the project. Next slide, please. If you don't already follow us on social media, we ask that you consider following us on social media. And here we have all of our links, as well as the QR codes where you can join us on Nextdoor, Facebook, X, and YouTube. And this presentation will also be posted to YouTube as well. And I'll pause for a minute in case you do want to capture the QR code. Next slide, please. All right, here's an important slide that gives you contact information in case you have a question or a concern about the project. As I mentioned earlier, we have a project information line. That 1-800 number is listed here. There's also an email address listed here. Also, we have the construction manager and some of the other project leads that are listed here, as well as Ms. Marshall, who's the assistant director. We have their contact information listed here. And finally, most importantly, is if something happens after hours or on the weekends, we ask that you use our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week dispatch emergency line. That number is listed here and the email is listed here. It's also posted on the homepage of our website. We have the emergency information because we want to know right away so that we can dispatch a crew to investigate and assess exactly what is happening with the project in your community. Next slide, please. And with that, this completes our presentation for this evening. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. I do see one email address in the chat. We are going to move to the question and answer period of our presentation. And what I ask is that if you have questions, if you will please place them in the chat, and then we will pull them from there and address them as we move into the question and answer period. Thank you, Miss Ashley, for providing your email. Any others? And also, if you do have an homeowners association and you have a contact for that, we would love to get that from you so that we can make sure that the information gets to the community as a whole. Do we have any questions at this time? I don't see any questions right now in the chat. Do we have any questions at this time that you might have about this project? If so, please place them in the chat. Okay. Mr. Williams, I do not see any questions in our chat at this time from anyone.
Do not see, I don't think if they are trying to speak vocally, you have to unmute yourself if you want to actually speak and ask your question. Anybody trying to speak, because you have to unmute yourself to speak. Looks like we do not have any questions at this time. So if there are no further questions, then we're going to give you back your time, 1 hour. And again, you have the contact information that Miss Alicia Penny has given you. So if you need to contact any of us, you have those numbers right there. You can contact us before the project even starts, during the project, anytime you have that contact information. But with that, with no questions, we're going to go ahead. We're going to end this meeting. And thanks everyone for attending.